Okay, good morning. Thank you to another webinar, part of our first annual New Jersey Youth Transition Conference. My name is Chad Moyton. I'm from Monmouth Cares. I'll be the host for this session. I'm joined by Frank Latham from the New Jersey Council of Developmental Disabilities, who will be our presenter today. A couple of housekeeping items real quick before we get started. In this format, participants are muted by default. If you would like to communicate with myself or the panelists, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. As stated, we're also recording this presentation, and recordings of the presentations for all of the webinars during the conference will be located at www.njyouthtransition.life. So I'll say that again, www.njyouthtransition.life. This session is also being closed captioned. In order to activate the closed caption feature, please click the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen window and click show subtitle. If you need technology support at any point during the conference, you can access our live text Zoom support room sponsored by Richard West ATAP. The Zoom room link is available on our website on the conference agenda page. Please be patient, and there may be many people seeking help at the same time. And if you are having technology difficulties now, please first check your sound and try signing out and signing back into the session before visiting the technology support Zoom room. Oftentimes, this may fix the issue. Please note we will have a hard stop at 5 minutes before the top of the hour in order of us to host our next presentation. With that, I'll hand over the session to Frank.
So good morning, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me fine. First of all, thanks for taking some time out of your, what I'm sure is a busy weekend, to attend this webinar. We're going to cover two things primarily today. The first is going to be, we want to talk a little bit about advocacy and how that can impact the lives of young people moving forward as they transition to adulthood. And second of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disability, time permitting. I think the advocacy portion of this webinar is so important that we can hold off if we need to on the council stuff. That's primarily review and some of the other things that the council does. So I'm going to share my screen, get started on our presentation around advocacy. A little about me. I've been with the council for about 15 years now, and I run both their youth advocacy program, their youth leadership program, and their adult advocacy program, which is referred to as People First, which is a county-based program. And People First is arguably the largest self-advocacy organization in the world. There are chapters all around the world. We've had the fortunate opportunity at the council to go and visit some of those places. We've done some collaborative work with People First in Canada. It's a really great organization, and I would encourage you after you hear our presentation and learn a little bit about advocacy to join an advocacy organization, whether it's People First or any other advocacy organization. The most important thing is that advocacy can really have a huge impact on how people move forward. And we really encourage everybody to take part in the advocacy program. I'm going to share my screen and get started. So, advocacy, making a difference. So oftentimes people ask me what it is that I do. And I tell them without hesitation that I may have the best job at the council because I have the opportunity to interact with young people, which I believe are the real treasures of the world. Whether or not anybody has shared this with you, we're going to hand over the keys to this planet to the younger generation. And I believe they are the smartest, brightest, most gifted generation to ever inhabit the planet. And I think they're going to do a great job. So I have the opportunity to impact those folks by teaching them about advocacy. And advocacy to us has always meant the opportunity to make a difference in your life, make a difference in the people around you's life, but it really is just about making a difference. So one of the things we talk about is the word advocate. What does it mean to advocate? And there are many ways that folks can advocate. Here are just three of them that I think kind of tell a really great story about what it means to do some advocacy work. So to advocate is to speak up or write in favor of. Almost everybody has a favorite thing, whether that be food, a sports team, a singer, an actor. And when you speak up for that individual, that team, that food, you're really doing some advocacy work. You're saying, hey, I like this, I'm in favor of this, this is really important to me. I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to support them. And that really is all advocacy is in its simplest form. The other thing that advocacy represents is the opportunity to do something to support folks in terms of pushing for something. I live in a really great town in South Jersey, and we've got a really great sports program, but those kind of things cost money. So when it came time for our community to vote on that, I was in real favor because I think, it's the kind of thing that helps everybody in the community. So to push for, and you can do that in any number of ways. You can do that around things that are important in your school, things that are important in your community, things that are important in your family. And ultimately what you're saying is that you're in support of. You want to support something that matters to you. And that really is at the core of what advocacy is. So advocacy means speaking up and taking action. It's the taking action part that sometimes loses people. It's easy to speak up for something. It's easy to say, I like this, or I support this, or I'm in favor of this. What takes more responsibility, what takes more effort is to take action. And taking action can come in any number of forms. We can take action by our words. We can take action through writing letters. We can take action by supporting people who are doing the thing that we want to do. What we want to share here are a couple of ways that you can take action and become a better advocate. And one of the things about being a good advocate is we believe that advocacy is a portable skill. What I mean by portable skill is it's something that you can take with you. Oftentimes, what we learn may be something that kind of stays wherever we learn. We don't necessarily use math that we learn in school every day in every way, but advocacy is something that we can use every day in almost everything that we do, from how we interact with family members, how we interact on a job, how we interact with our friends. It's really important to be a good advocate, to speak up and represent yourself in a way that can be helpful and important. So to be a good advocate, one of the things that you have to know is the thing that you want to advocate for your X. X just means that's the thing that we want to advocate for. So a great example of that is when I was in school, we had pretty bad school lunches. I'll go out on a limb and say they were pretty awful. But as students, one of the things that we thought would be important and impactful was the opportunity to change some of those school lunches. So what we did was we asked, how can we have impact on those school lunches? And what we put together we didn't know it at the time, was an advocacy plan. And that was, we were going to, the thing that was important to us were these school lunches, and we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to have an impact on how those school lunches were prepared, what we got to eat, when we got to eat them. So that was our X. Everybody's X is going to be a little different. It may be about things in your community. It may be about things in your school. It may be as simple as having the opportunity to speak up more for yourself, whether that be in an IEP or any other place that your voice is really important. So it requires some real thought. We don't want to just hop on to any thing that we're going to support. We want to give it some thought. We want to make sure this is something that I understand, something that I can get behind and take action around. But at the end of the day, the thing that really makes a good advocate is understanding the thing that you're going to advocate for is important to you. Some of the things that are illustrated on this slide are, things like transportation. Transportation is a huge dilemma for some people, especially for individuals with disabilities, because our state is very different depending upon what part of the state you live in. And some parts of the state have great transportation. Other parts of the state, the transportation needs to be improved. So if transportation is something that you advocate for, that should be encouraged and supported. And there are any number of other things. It could be the kind of support you get. It could be where you live. It could be family. It could be exercise. It could be your responsibility or doing a job. It could be something that you just really like in terms of your personal life, a pet, animal rights. Any of those kind of things are worthy causes to advocate for. But one of the things that's really important is to figure out why that thing is important to you and how your advocacy may affect you. So oftentimes, when we think about doing advocacy, we think that, well, if we do advocacy, everything's going to be, it's going to turn out just the way I planned for it to happen, and I'm going to get what I want. Well, that's oftentimes not what happens with advocacy. What happens is you put your effort in and you hope that it turns out the way that you like, and sometimes it ends up being something that can be really helpful, but sometimes it ends up being something that didn't turn out the way that you wanted to and can be hurtful, not necessarily hurtful in a physical way, but you didn't accomplish your advocacy goal. So that's really important to think about long before you jump in and start doing your advocacy. Think about how it may impact you, what effect it may have on you. And if you do that, you're just going to be in a better position to move forward and advocate in a way with the understanding that it may not always turn out exactly like you want it to. So this is one of my favorite slides. In addition to the opportunity to work for the council, I also do some coaching. I've coached at the college level, coached at the high school level. I'm currently a high school basketball coach. And one of the things I always share with our team is that when you do any kind of advocacy, you really have to ask yourself, is this an issue that is more important to me than to a group, or more beneficial to me than to the group, or more beneficial to the group than it is to me? And I always try to create that as we over me, because sometimes we're going to choose things that are just important to us. That would be the me over we. And neither of these is right or wrong. They're just a different way to approach a situation based on what you believe is important in that moment. And it doesn't have to be that way all the time. And the good thing, oftentimes, for instance, if you choose we over me, what happens is you think it's just an issue that's important to you. So you're advocating specifically for yourself. But what ends up happening is you're advocating for folks who have similar experience and may need your kind of advocacy support. I believe that the we over me advocacy position is one where we start off with the understanding that we're going to support things that are better and more important to a group. And we may be the people who benefit because we're working hard to do something that benefits the entire group. A great example of that is, I'll go back to the example of our advocacy we did around changing our lunches. One of the nice things about that particular kind of advocacy is it was something that we thought would affect everybody, but there were oftentimes individuals who benefited specifically from that. We had people who had different diet restrictions, vegetarians and vegans. And when we did our advocacy to change that lunch menu, what ended up happening was we got the benefit of those folks who had different dietary plans to be able to have what they wanted. And that wasn't our intention, but it was great that we ended up having that as part of what we were able to advocate for. Once you know your X, it's time to take action. And for a lot of advocates, a lot of young people, particularly because they don't have a lot of experience, taking action is oftentimes the hardest part. You have an understanding of what you want to advocate for, what you want to change, how you want to have some impact, what you want to support. But now it's time to take action. And taking action can be the hardest step because it requires you doing something that you may be unfamiliar with. You may not have training or support around how to do it. Any number of roadblocks can be in the way. What I would suggest is that learn to be proactive. And even if you take a small step, it's a step in the right direction. And that movement can hopefully allow you to make more moves in that direction. It's really important. Action is such an important part of being a good advocate. We can talk about things forever, but if we don't take any action, very seldom will we see the changes that we're hoping to accomplish. One of the ways you can take action is to find out what's going on. I'm an old guy, and as an old guy, one of the things that I didn't have the benefit of growing up was social media. There were much more traditional ways to find out about things that were going on. Maybe the news on the television, maybe the radio, newspapers. Those were the ways that we oftentimes heard about things that were happening in our community, things that we wanted to change, things that impacted us. The generation of young people now have many more outlets. Social media is a great tool if used properly. There are opportunities to talk to many more people, learn a lot more without ever having to leave your house. There are some good things about it. There are some things that aren't so good, but it's a great way to find out information because you can get information from so many different sources, and those sources can oftentimes be partners that you can work with as you start to advocate around things that you believe are important. Another great thing, and this has been a bit of a challenge during the pandemic. That's part of the reason we're having a virtual conference instead of an in-person conference, but it is to meet folks, meet your elected officials and tell them why the thing that you believe is important is so important to you. It may be something as simple as curb cuts on sidewalks. It may be something as simple as having programs that are supported financially, and also look at individuals, particularly individuals with disabilities, and figure out how we can create a program that allows them to have the level of independence that they want, but we're also still supporting them. And one of the great ways to be able to do that is share your concerns, your questions, and your ideas, because oftentimes when we share those kind of things, what we find out is that there are people who share that experience, who oftentimes have similar or experiences that they can share, and we can learn from each other. Peer-to-peer learning is one of the great advantages of being open and willing to share your concerns, questions, and ideas. There's so much that so many other people have experienced, and we can learn from them, and also share our experiences so they have the opportunity to learn from us. So as we start to share those concerns, questions, and ideas, one of the things that we can do is network. And networking gives us the opportunity to reach many more people in a wide range of places and spaces, and do that in a way that doesn't necessarily interrupt people's lives. If we were to have this conference in person, we would all have to travel to some place. Some of us may have to travel a short distance, some of us may have to travel quite a lengthy distance, but we would all have to travel to some place. And then we would have to take care of all those things that support getting to that space. With networking, especially virtual networking, there's an opportunity to reach out, communicate, interact with folks, and sometimes we don't even have to leave our home. We shouldn't give up in-person networking, very, very valuable as well. But for right now, a lot of what we're going to be able to do around advocacy may have to be virtual until we can get back to doing things in a different way. But networking can be really important, primarily because it gives us, again, the opportunity to meet, learn, and exchange information and ideas with people that we may not have face-to-face contact with. So oftentimes, one of the most effective ways is to write a letter. It seems like it's something that is old school, but the ability to sit down and compose a letter with support or on your own can be really valuable. People, although we would hope our elected officials and newspapers and those kind of folks don't just delete emails, oftentimes they get so bombarded with so many emails that it's really difficult to be able to figure out what's important to them, because there are so many. So having the ability to sit down and write a letter to your elected officials, to the newspaper, so they can publish that in an op-ed piece or just an opinion piece, post stuff online, share it on social media, and kind of reach out to folks that we may not necessarily think of that we should write letters to. You can write a letter to your school principal. You can write a letter to your teacher. You can write a letter to your school board. These are really effective ways to be able to advocate, get some things changed in a way that is important and productive for you, and build your advocacy skills. Because like everything else, advocacy is a skill that we can learn and get better at. But oftentimes the only way we have the opportunity to do that is by participating, doing it more often. And writing letters is a great way to participate in advocacy for everybody. Petitions are another great way. And for those who may not know what a petition is oftentimes a statement that you want something to happen. we created a petition around school lunches. What we said was we would like to have the opportunity to have input on what the school lunches are. But it's not just a statement, it's a statement. And then you get people to sign on who agree with that statement. So it may seem like a small gesture to have just a statement, but if there are 1,500 kids in your school and you get 1,200 of them to sign your petition, all of a sudden you're talking with the voice of 1,200 kids as opposed to talking with the voice of just one individual. Petitions are a great way to kind of judge what the approval or disapproval of something that you believe is worth advocating for. Those are when we are doing big advocacy things. Oftentimes, what we want to look at is how this kind of practice, kind of figuring out what other people, what kind of support we may be able to get as we're looking for greater opportunities, whether that be for some of you who are transitioning from school into the adult world. We can petition folks around what kind of jobs are available, what kind of pay those jobs offer, what kind of opportunity those jobs offer. And if we can get a sense of where things are moving towards, that's a great way to be able to create some advocacy around what it is that you think is important and want to happen. Testifying or testimony is also a really great way to kind of share your story. And in sharing your story, you really are being a good advocate. Oftentimes, what we believe is just something that happens to us or is happening to us is something that happens to a lot of people who have similar life experiences. It's the opportunity really to tell your story. And in doing so, what we oftentimes find out, and I hope that as you as young advocates start to tell your story, one of the things that you'll find out is that there are many people who have experienced some of what you're experiencing. And it's a great opportunity to be able to tell your story, learn from what that experience feels like. It can be kind of tough to share things that you may not necessarily be as comfortable with, but what you'll find is oftentimes you'll get a great deal of support from other people who have experienced things in a very, very similar way. So again, as we start to think about advocacy work, one of the ways that we can share that information is to do things that are out in the public eye, so people can hear about them, so they can find out whether or not it's something that they want to support or get behind. And a great way to do that is to have a press conference, hold a rally in support or against something, and to share that kind of information on social media. All of these are great opportunities to both gauge how people may support or not support what it is that you do. And that can be really, really important kind of moving down the line. Remember, know your X and take action. Action really is the thing that moves your advocacy forward. I oftentimes like to end presentations with what I try to use in my life every day, and that is something that inspires me, something that kind of moves me to the action that I think is important, whether that be advocacy or anything else. Some people call those mantras, some people call them all kinds of things. I just call them, really good quotes. And this is one that I tell myself often. You don't have to be great to try, but you do have to try if you want to be great. And I think that kind of sums it up simply, because oftentimes, especially around advocacy, we're oftentimes afraid to take action because all the other people we see who are advocating for the things that are important to them are already good at it. What I can tell you from my own experience, it takes a while to get good at anything. And the willingness to try is the single best opportunity for you to be great at it. So that really is something I hope you guys take with you. If you don't remember much else from this presentation, please remember that quote, that it really is about trying, and when you try, the opportunity to be great at it will surely catch up to you. So this is my contact information. Like I said, we'd love the opportunity to come out and talk to you. We're right now doing most of our stuff virtually, but hopefully that will transition, and we'll have the opportunity to talk to folks more directly in person. We do really great advocacy training in terms of helping with transition and anything else that we can do around advocacy. We can connect you with our self-advocacy groups, which are kind of county-based, but not exclusively, and our youth leadership groups, which are more school-based. So if your school or your community is interested in having one of those, we'll be glad to kind of put that together and make that happen for you as well. And finally, what I oftentimes tell folks, especially around advocating, is it really is your life. It's going to be supported by the people who love and care about you, your friends, your family, your parents, siblings, but it really is your life. So if it's your life, why not be the captain of that ship for as much as you can? For some of us, that means we're going to be the captain of the ship. We're not going to need anybody else to do much else. For others, it may mean we need more support. It's not really about what the support needs that we have are, but the opportunity to really experience being the captain of the ship and sharing what you think is important. That really is what advocacy is all about. It is about supporting, speaking up, and pushing for the things that are valuable and important to you. Thanks. If it's okay, I'd love to take questions if we have any on this presentation, and I'll be glad to share some stuff about the council if we have any time left. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if we have any questions.
Frank, are you hearing me right now? It's Chad.
I can.
Okay, great. Sorry, we're running into technical difficulty where Zoom has frozen on my end. So
Okay.
I actually, I see the transcript, but that's all that's moving.
All right.
So I don't know if you're able to look at the bottom, the Q&A button. If you press that, that would be where any questions are. Unfortunately, I'm glad that hitting space was to unmute me, but that's, I think, all I can do right now.
I don't see any questions. I thought I saw some popped up, but they popped up and then disappeared. So I don't see any, but it looks like we have a little bit of time. So I'll be glad to share what we have, the council presentation as well, because I think that would be informative and helpful to talk about some of the other stuff that the council does in terms of being able to support people with disabilities more broadly.
Great. Yeah, we have about 20 minutes before the next webinar. So feel free to use that time.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen. And we'll share a little bit about the council. So, give me just a second. So a lot of what the council does. Mike, are you getting any feedback?
No, I don't hear any feedback.
Okay, great. I maybe it's just on my end. Not a problem.
It sounds good.
Okay, great. So really the council does three things in kind of big order. We do advocacy, which we just shared with you. We do collaboration, and we do education. So the council was established in 1971. It really is, there are supposed to be councils in all 50 states. Of course, I think New Jersey has the best. And we're federally funded, and we kind of sit in between federal and state. Again, part of what we're federally mandated to do is to advocate for disability rights. So this is kind of what the council makeup is. It's about 30 members. 60% of those members are people or family members with developmental disabilities. The other 40% are folks from agencies. What I will tell you, although the process is oftentimes long and hard, I would encourage anybody who thinks that they may be interested in participating as a council member to get that process started, and you can reach out to our office to get that process started. It really is important that people who have this life experience, lived experience, become council members. They are our single best opportunity to understand what the community needs and how we can better serve them. So these are kind of just some things that we believe every individual with a developmental disability should have the opportunity to experience, and be a contributing member of their neighborhoods and communities, make real choices, have the freedom to strive, excel, make mistakes, are in a position to achieve personal goals, are in a position to influence policy and decision-making, and have the same rights and privileges, responsibilities, and opportunities of citizenship that every other person has. We are not different. We should have all of the rights and responsibilities that everyone else has. So our 5-year plan is really the kind of thing that drives what we do at the council. This is our last 5-year plan. It literally just ended yesterday. So we have a brand new 5-year plan that we're looking to do a lot of really good things. Part of what makes these 5-year plans so impactful is we try to reach out to the community and find out what things they believe are important, and then include those in the 5-year plan kind of moving forward. want to share a little bit about some of the programs that we run. So this is one of our advocacy programs, People First, nationally recognized. We have chapters in Bergen, Burlington, Camden, Hunterdon, and Morris County, with some emerging chapters in Ocean, Monmouth, and Cape May County. So we're growing, and we would love to continue to grow. So if you don't see your county listed and it's something that you feel like you may be interested in, by all means, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do about getting a chapter started. And that's a really important thing, because these chapters are not built around what the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities believes is important. They are built around what you as advocates believe is important. So that's a really important thing for us, and we believe in that very strong. Family support councils, this is more for the families. And again, these are kind of based around county, but include more counties. Our People First is in individual counties. These group a couple of counties together. So there are 10 instead of 21 possible groups. But this is a really great organization run by a absolutely wonderful representative, Kyoko Koko. Her contact information is there, and we'll be glad to share that information. So if there are family members on the call who are not involved in the Regional Family Support Planning Council, it's a great organization. I would encourage folks to become involved. Our youth leadership program is really our advocacy program for younger people. And we use that advocacy program to not only allow folks to understand about advocacy, but also to develop their advocacy skills. So we teach some of those, what we believe are critical and crucial advocacy skills, public speaking, how government works, your right to vote, person first language, disability culture, really important things for anybody who wants to be a good advocate, whether they want to do that for themselves or do that for the broader, wider community. We believe this is really, really important. Partners in Policy is a program that we used to run in-house and now is run by the Boggs Center. Again, a really great program for both advocates and family members, but it really focuses on developing policy and policy impact around issues that affect folks with developmental disabilities. So one of the other things that we do is we give out grants to organizations and projects that we believe are going to be impactful to individuals with developmental disabilities. These are just a few. Most of these have finished up. And with the new 5-year plan, there will be a new set of grants that we'll issue around issues that we believe are important and impactful. Community integration projects are kind of smaller things that we do in the community that we believe will have social change, create equal access, really things that are going to, again, improve the lives of individuals with developmental disabilities in a smaller, less kind of statewide way. These may be things that happen in smaller communities of town, but they're just as important. Part of what we do is collaborate across the disability community with things that we believe can impact our family. And it really is just a chain of important relative things that have the opportunity to impact individuals with disabilities. Some of those things are things that we create in-house, like DDAN. Some of those things are things we go outside and collaborate with the Department of Education. but all of them are just part of what we want to do, the DNA of being good community members and supporting individuals with disabilities. So again, some of what we do is we try to impact things that are going to have impact on individuals with developmental disabilities, whether that be system funding, housing, transportation, employment, all of the things that we think we can have an impact, and we want input from people like yourselves so we can be better informed and talk directly to the legislators. One of my favorite things, because I am lucky enough to get to be able to do some of these things, these are presentations that the council does in the community. Because we're federally funded, all of these things come free of charge, will come just about anywhere with enough time and notice in advance. The R-word presentation, which we've kind of folded into our anti-bullying presentation, although we still do it separately. Getting ready for an emergency, which is always something that we do right around this time as hurricane season starts to happen. And our anti-bullying program, which is really something that is absolutely needed and absolutely important, especially for students with disabilities. They are disproportionately bullied more than traditional students. So they're programs that we really encourage, and our contact information, that is my contact information, is on the bottom of this page. By all means, reach out to me if this is something that you think you would like for your community or school. One of the other things the council does is we do publications, magazines, blogs, newsletters, and these are really great ways to reach out and find out what's happening in the disability community, as well as subscribe to some of the other things that the council does. So when we do something or there's something that we believe should be shared and it is of note, that you'll be the first to be contacted for that kind of information. Just a few ways that you can get in contact with us: our Facebook, our website. We are kind of in the office Monday through Friday. There's always somebody at the office. We're still kind of getting our bearings around how we're going to be doing this in this new environment. Again, thanks. I know it's a Saturday and a pretty beautiful Saturday, so I really appreciate everyone coming out, listening in. Please feel free to reach out to me and or the council. If you have any questions, I would love to come out and share some information, talk about how we can help any of the young people get connected to advocacy and learn to advocate on their own for the things that they believe are important. And it's just a great skill as they transition into adult life. Thanks very much for your time. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to entertain any of them.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, we have about 5 or 6 minutes before we have to close the call. So if anybody has any questions now, please use the Q&A feature. Frank, you can look at that. I did have a moment of movement on my screen as you transitioned from presentations, but I'm still locked other than being able to speak. So to our participants and to Frank, thank you all for coming. As Frank said, this is a beautiful day, so we appreciate the time. Frank, you know as well as I do the importance of us on the systems end of things being available to the families when it's convenient for them. So I want to thank you for that. And for the rest of the attendees, be sure to check out the rest of the New Jersey Transition Conference if you have time. Additional workshops and information can be found at the website and at www.njyouth-transition.life. Additional resource information and the virtual resource guide will be found on the website as well. And all recordings of the webinars will be posted within about a week or so to the website on the page where you registered. That's where the handouts and any recordings will become available.
Great. Again, thanks everyone for participating. I don't see any questions, so that either means that we did a great job of sharing the information, or probably everybody is so knowledgeable and this was more a refresher course than anything else. No matter which of those options are true, thanks again for participating. We are really grateful and thankful that you took the time out to be part of what we hope is a ongoing tradition for supporting young people as they transition.
Absolutely, and I'll actually be reaching out to you directly, Frank, as well. I know of a young man named Timothy Rover who he's found his calling as an advocate, as a young person. He's 21, doing lots of talks right now. He's primarily talking in high schools and settings like that, but he his voice is all about inclusion, and I think he would have a great voice to be included in the anti-bullying things that you do. So I'll make sure to make that connection offline for us.
Great, sounds great.
With that being said, if there's still no questions, I'll see if I can close the room and we can have a few minutes before the next webinar presentation. And once again, thank you everybody for attending today.
Thanks again. Stay well, everyone.